And that's all coming up. But let's first talk about another big fraud that we haven't gotten to since it broke on Sunday. We've mentioned it. Leanne McAdoo reports. World leaders duped by fake climate change data. No, they weren't duped. They knew what they were part of in most cases. We've done this for 6 years out of East Anglia, where they say, we've got to hide the decline. The Earth quit warming 19 years ago, they say. This is now 6 years ago, so it'll be 25 years ago. And it's begun cooling the last 3. We must hide the decline. And how do we do it? With fake temperature data, fake thermometers that don't exist, hiding the decline. It's all there. Coordinating all these other universities, how to lie to the public and get the funds to make them all the little saviors of the earth, telling Africans you can't have cars or air conditioning. Boy, talk about racist. But see, it's okay because it's liberal. It's liberal when they do it. It's a war against everybody's resources. It's a planetary eugenics management system that uses divide and conquer to politically control people while their resources are cut off. It's Cloward and Piven writ large. And now they've been caught, and top climate experts, NASA people, you name it, insiders are coming out going, yeah, no, it wasn't just fake temperature data. There were no thermometers in hundreds of locations. It's made up. Academic, organized, racketeering fraud committed against the people. And that's why they're so desperate. The pedophile rings, the corrupt operations inside academia, the big banking scams. That's why Goldman Sachs gave 100% of its money to Hillary, 0 to Trump. It's why they're trying to drive down the stock market right now. Because they are panicking. Let's go to Leanne McAdoo's report on this. And I'm going to come back into the next phase of their big push for censorship. Oh, and something else that we've been correct about reporting. We told you this 3 or 4 years ago, had reporters on the ground. This is out of 9 News out of Australia. It's also out of ABC News, Associated Press, Fox News are all reporting this headline today, which we were called fearmongers for. I mean, we just had physicists, nuclear physicists, chemical physicists on about it. Fukushima's radiation reaches unimaginable levels, and just as we said, more than 1 reactor is still going through meltdown, and they just dump water on it and have it run into the ocean. So we're going to tell you about that. Of course, the response of Mombiot and other liberals is, radiation's good now, and we should have more reactors. It's liberal. As long as it's liberal, it's okay. And, of course, Ann Coulter said the Japanese on the right should be thankful for the radiation as a health treatment. But again, we're the fake news here, folks, having Japanese nuclear physicists on and others and breaking down with real Geiger counters what was happening. And the butterflies deformed and the kids dropping dead of heart failure all over the place from the radiation and the rad clouds floating around. But it's okay because the media said it was a conspiracy theory when milk across the United States in some cases showed thousands of times higher than what it should have been for isotopes. The EPA just raised the levels and said it was safe. But again, it's okay, everybody, because you don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. Just know that Fukushima is good for you and your family, because the government and the state-run media and Tokyo Electric and General Electric, they told you, and they never lie. Mainstream media never lies to you. You heard Trump read that law earlier that the president has absolute discretion to block permanently whoever he wants if he feels like it. But you know what? Again, folks, don't listen to him. Listen to CNN and MSNBC. Anderson Cooper cares about you. Here, let's go to that report.
World leaders were duped into investing billions of our taxpayer dollars, mind you, into this climate change agenda based on manipulated global warming data. Now, this is a story coming out of the Daily Mail. They're speaking directly with a whistleblower who has direct knowledge of this. He says there is astonishing evidence that NOAA, which is the organization that is the world's leading source of climate data, rushed to publish this landmark paper. It exaggerated global warming, and they did this to rush this report because they wanted to make the maximum impact at the UN climate conference in Paris in 2015. So this is high-level whistleblower, data science, climate, and satellites consultant John J. Bates. He said that America's National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration breached its own rules on scientific integrity by rushing to push this report through. And this report claimed that this pause or the slowdown in global warming is actually a myth, and that world temperatures had been rising faster than science could explain. So again, this is flawed and unsubstantiated data. It was seized upon by world leaders who then took to the streets, blasting it all over media to claim that 97% of scientists say climate change is urgent and it's man-made and it must be addressed. And so immediately with this Paris Accord, they dedicated $100 billion in taxpayer dollars every single year to be given an extra climate-related aid to the developing world by rich nations. And they also called for a binding legal mechanism to ensure that the world got no more than 2 degrees Celsius warmer than pre-industrial times. Dr. Bates says that this report was based on misleading and unverified data. He retired from NOAA at the end of last year after a 40-year career there in meteorology and climate science. And in 2014, the Obama administration awarded him a special gold medal for his work in setting new, supposedly binding standards to produce and preserve climate data records. So when he's saying that they are misleading and using unverified data here, why he's such a high-level whistleblower, we need to pay attention to this. So this paper is being kind of referred to as the Pause Buster paper, and it was based on 2 new temperature sets of data, one containing measurements of temperatures of the sea and the other the planet's surface on land. Both data sets were flawed. They haven't even come through with an official revised version yet, okay? Now it's almost 2017. So typically with the sea data set, they're going to be using readings from fixed and floating buoys. These are generally reliable, but what they did this time, there was an upwards adjustment of these readings to bring them in line with readings from water being taken in by ships. So this is totally doubtful source. Obviously, you think about it, ships themselves are sources of heat. Readings will vary from ship to ship, and the depth of water intake will vary according to how heavily a ship is laden, which means obviously if the ship is in deeper water, it's going to be a colder reading or versus warmer reading, etc. So they had this good data from buoys, according to Dr. Bates, but they threw that out and corrected it by using the bad data from ships. In addition, they were also using a new experimental program. They were combining separate sets of records, so it was kind of too new. They weren't able to give this the careful checking that was required, but they pushed it out anyway. And then, in addition to that, the software that they were using was afflicted by serious bugs. Every time they took in the raw temperature readings, they were running through this computer, it gave different results because it was seriously flawed, and the new bug-free version of the software still has not been approved and issued. And just the clincher here, none of the data on which the paper was based was properly archived, which is a mandatory requirement meant to ensure that the raw data and the software used to process it is accessible to other scientists so they can verify NOAA's results. And Dr. Bates said the final bombshell is that the computer used to process the software suffered a complete failure. So the reason for the failure is unknown, but this means that this Pause Buster paper can never be replicated or verified by other scientists. And this is key because this was a paper that was used by President Barack Obama, David Cameron, and other world leaders to push this climate change agenda. They locked us into this agreement, billions of taxpayer dollars. Even after they're out of office, this will ensure that this agenda moves forward. We'll just have to wait and see if President Donald Trump is able to turn this around. Of course, he campaigned on reversing this climate change agenda.